Zimmerman. She is a fellow member of the Bella Vista Garden Club. And today we're going to be talking about organizing your gardening information and getting ready for the new year. And we have some ideas about how you can keep track of your things in your garden and just kind of organize your information. So the other thing, there isn't too much to do in January in your garden, but there's a few things you can kind of take care of. And there's not a lot of gardening activities, but this is a good time of year if you have some nice days to take the walking trails at Compton Gardens and Crystal Bridges and just see how they have their four seasonal plantings. It's interesting to see they have put a lot of effort into having 4 seasons of their garden. That's interesting. So that would be something you can do in January. And also the the Benton County Master Gardener Program. The training sessions going on this January. We'll have some new Master Gardeners coming out of that. And the trail guides at Crystal Bridges are all Master Gardeners. So they get their training with the Master Gardeners, and then some of them go on to be trail guides at Crystal Bridges. So, but it's always encouraging to see a garden that's in the winter. And we also have those Meet the Master segments. I know you've seen a couple of those. And we have Master Gardeners that have other interests besides gardening, and it's kind of interesting to see what their side interests are besides gardening. And today we have a Meet the Master segment, and our Master Gardener chosen today is Nancy Hutchison, and she lives in Rogers, and this was taped in 2011. Yes. So let's go visit her garden, and she's being introduced by Teresa Scallon, who's also a Master Gardener. So let's take a visit and see Nancy's garden and hear what she has to say about her interest.
Welcome to Meet the Masters. We're here in Bentonville at the lovely home of Nancy and Bob Hutchison. They live on an expansive property in a valley overlooking Little Osage Creek. Nancy is one of our newest Master Gardeners. She graduated in the class of 2011. I'm sure you'll enjoy getting to know Nancy a little better with me.
We've lived here since 1990. It was 5 acres that we purchased, and we had always lived on a small lot in town, so we were not prepared to take care of 5 acres. And the first year we had to have the front yard baled because the grass grew so fast, and we only had a push lawnmower. So after that we got a little bit smarter and got a riding mower. Two of the biggest challenges are the rocks, because we live on a hillside, so just digging a garden is a challenge. And then the deer, because they like to eat everything that I plant. The only thing that I've found that will stop the deer is to put deer netting around some of my pots and over my plants, and usually then they'll leave them alone. My favorite perennial, I have several. I like the hostas and daylilies, and just about any perennial that will grow in my yard. The daffodils, tulips, iris, they're all beautiful, and I love the progression from one perennial to the next throughout the growing season.
Well, Nancy, I know that you enjoy growing tomatoes. Are these the hillbilly potato leaf tomatoes that Mark Bray talked to us about at our Master Gardeners meeting?
Yes, it is. It is the hillbilly potato leaf tomato. I was real interested in that after Mark gave his talk about it at our meeting, so I went to the Bella Vista wastewater treatment plant, and I bought one and planted it in the pot, and I'm really looking forward to some tomatoes this summer. I also, while I was there, got this one, and it is a chocolate cherry. And that just sounded so delicious. I had to try the chocolate cherry.
I see you're growing other edibles in your pots. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've incorporated?
Well, I'm growing some basil and also some green peppers in the pots as well. So I'll have a small vegetable garden in my pots, hopefully this summer. As part of my master gardening hours, I took the docent or volunteer training at Compton Gardens. And one of the reasons that I was interested in doing that is because Dr. Compton is the doctor that delivered me. I've enjoyed getting to know more about Dr. Compton. He and my father used to go canoe floating together, and I was actually on a couple of trips down the Buffalo with him, once when the National Geographic came to video him and learn more about the Buffalo River. The one thing that you might never guess about me is that my husband and I are both avid scuba divers, and I also am learning underwater photography, which I thoroughly enjoy. And one more thing that you might be surprised about is that a couple of years ago we swam with the whale sharks when we were in Cozumel. Swimming with the whale sharks was pretty exciting experience. I have never been that close to any fish or animal that is that large. It was almost like they know that we're small and they're big and they're pretty gentle with you, and sometimes they'll even turn towards you a little bit so you can get closer. It's very surprising. And we were very lucky because on that trip, I believe it's some manta rays came in and surrounded the boat. So we got to see the manta rays up close, and that was just wonderful.
Beth Strickland does such a wonderful job with them, and
Yes.
it's so interesting to see the different interests that the master gardeners have
You don't have
besides
to
gardening.
Right, you don't have to spend all your time going through seed catalogs.
Right.
But that is something we can do right now.
Oh yeah, we can do that now. That's one of the things we need to plan for our garden in the spring, is to look through those catalogs and be sure what you order and you plant is what you can maintain.
Yes.
Don't you get a little bit overzealous sometimes with those catalogs?
Yes, and I might not get the seeds planted in time or whatever
Or
if
the
I've
plant-
ordered
if
too
you-
much.
And you order too many plants, and then you don't know where to put them.
Right.
And so you have to be careful with that. So, but I just love to see all the different interests that gardeners have besides gardening. But the planning of your garden and keeping track of everything, it seems like it's daunting to some people. And we both have different ways of keeping track. You have a spreadsheet, I think, you work with.
Yes, but this information could also be organized on a simple notepad. As I've obtained plants, and many of them are new to me because I moved from a northern climate to this one, I've had to learn when to prune them back, when to divide them, and so forth. And it's been very helpful to me to have that sheet.
So you just keep track of the plant and then what month to do the different steps.
Right, and so then I can look at early spring, and I know I have a little built-in checklist.
Like a checklist, what to do when. That's really a good idea. I don't have that, but what I do sometimes is I have a calendar in my garage right before I go out into the garden, and I keep track sometimes on the calendar of when I spray the roses, or when I fertilize, or when I add compost, so I can go back and know that it's been 3 weeks, since I've done that. And so I keep a calendar, like a yearly calendar out there. And sometimes I'll note on there like when things bloom, or if I'm having a problem with a certain type of bug,
Right.
or something, I'll note it on the calendar there, and I can always go back to it. But that's a great spreadsheet to have, by month for your individual plants,
Yes.
which is good. The other thing I do with individual plants, what I did originally is I numbered all of my beds around the house. So I have like number 1 is by the deck and number 2 is across from that. And when I got a plant, when I first started my garden, I took the plant label, and you always need to save your plant labels, because this gives you all the information on your plants. It tells you the size, the zone usually, and when I plant it, I write on here where I planted it and what date, and then I put it in my records as to what plant it is, where I planted it. I usually write down how much I paid for it, where I bought it, because if it dies, some of the nurseries will reimburse you partly for if it dies within a year. So I keep track of all that on my little sheet, and I divided it up by trees, shrubs, perennials, and so I could find the plant very easily. If it died, I can go back and replace it, or if I decide it's not going to be replaced. Now, Gerald Klingeman at the University of Arkansas, he was a professor there, he said if you don't kill a plant at least 3 times, you haven't tried. So I haven't followed that rule all the time, but that is a case in point. Sometimes it just doesn't make it because of the weather.
Yes.
But other times it's, because it doesn't like the location.
Right.
So, but there's so many things you can do to organize your garden and your information. And you have another file that you keep things in?
Yes, I just keep a rack of file folders, and I have each one marked shade gardening, or Arkansas native plants, or soil amendments. So as I've been getting to know Arkansas, I can refer to those file folders when I have a problem or when I have something I'm interested in.
Yeah,
and I stash things in there.
Right, I do a similar thing where I have a book, and I started this years ago, and I have this file folder, and I labeled it, shrubs, trees, bulbs, mulch, miscellaneous, and every time I see an article in a paper or a magazine that I want to keep, I put it in this file folder based on, the category, because you can't remember it all. You read things and you're not going to retain everything that's in that article. And there's different varieties of plants. Sometimes they'll give you a long list of varieties of daffodils, and if you want a certain, mid-bloom, it's good to refer back to that and try to find that variety.
And if you're like me and have a stack of these articles that you've clicked out, January, where we can't do much of anything else outside, is a good time to start organizing.
Right, and you get them organized into some kind of a retrievable information, so that you can always go back and find it again. So organizing your garden information is important, and it's really important to keep your tags. Now, you said sometimes you keep yours in by the plant.
Right, only if they're the plastic ones.
The real hard
real
kinds.
hard plastic ones. But
And
if that kind I can't keep.
Over time, they will disintegrate and get brittle and fall apart. So, like I said, I just take mine out and put them in a little Ziploc bag, and after I record them as to where they're planted, and because sometimes people come to your garden, they want to know what plant it is.
I basically keep them by the plant only for the first year when they're so small.
Oh, yeah.
And if I've planted them in the fall, then in the spring, and when they look different, maybe when I put
That's
them in, I
right.
can remember what they are.
When they first come up in the spring, they may look a lot different than they do when they're in full, growth.
Right.
So that's a good thing to do the first year. And then, like I said, but there's times that people come to your garden and want to know the plant name.
Exactly.
And you have to remember what they are.
Right.
So that can be a challenge.
Yeah.
So this is one good thing we do with keeping track. And the other thing is the ordering seeds.
Yes.
Now you've ordered from, or you're looking to order from
Johnny's Seeds, which is just just Google Johnny's Johnny Seeds, and you'll find the website right away. And they also have a wide variety of garden tools too, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh yeah, you were talking about those tools.
And then there are the seed companies in Arkansas and in Missouri, so you'll get your local seeds as well.
Yeah.
But the garden tools that Johnny's Seed sell include a hoe that I'd like to get to make weeding a little easier on my back, and it has a sharp blade, a short, sharp blade at the end, and even replaceable blades.
Oh my. I know that the Master Gardeners have a hoe that they sell at their meetings, their state meetings, and it's very sharp, but it doesn't have a replaceable blade, but it's almost razor sharp that can really cut those weeds. So, but the replaceable blade's interesting. That might be an interesting tool. So it's a good way to get rid of those pesky weeds, and we certainly have enough of them this year. The weeds this year are just terrible. So that's a good thing. Now the other websites we have, on our website we have other catalogs listed and websites listed to order plants and seeds, so there's a resource there you can find.
Right, there's Missouri Wildflowers is one, there's Easy Wildflowers is another one, and those are both in Missouri, but they're
close.
Zone.
Yeah, the right zone, right, so. Anyway, but you know, like I said, organizing your information is important, so you know what you have out there and what works and doesn't work. And you may want to make notes as to, you know, which plants really did well and which plants didn't do very well.
Right, and some which may be more trouble than they're worth if they attract a lot of pests, or the deer keep eating them despite what you do.
They spread too much.
Right,
you know,
that's another thing.
You know, some things you can share, you know, if they spread, but others that, you know, you have so much after they spread that you can't even share them all. They're just they're invasive almost.
Yes,
so.
yes.
And you learn through trial and error, I think, with that.
Or bitter experience.
That's right. Right. So anyway, and the other thing, like I said, when you order your plants, it's a good time in January to go through those catalogs. There's always new varieties coming out, and you can over-order. I've seen that happen where you want this and you want that, and you order them, and then there's no place to put them, or you just can't get them all planted, and then you have to maintain them.
Another good rule of thumb, especially if you're trying a new plant, is to just order a few, order 3 of them, and see how they do in a particular area.
Right.
Or plant them in 3 different areas to see how they do, and then you'll know, and you can order more of those and plant them in the best area next time.
Right. And if they do well in one area versus another, you can always move the ones that are doing well to the good area.
Yeah, that's
now,
true.
things change in your garden too. Every year you have changes because you lose trees, you know, with the
drought.
storms and the drought. We don't know how many trees we're going to lose with this drought that we've had for 2 years. Or your trees sometimes grow so wide and so much that they shade a previously sunny spot.
Yes.
So, you know, your garden's going to change every year. It's changing, and you have to either move those plants that don't get enough sun into the sun, or you have to move those plants that lost their shade into a shady area. So it's just a constant battle every year. And it's good to maybe take notes and know that you have to move this plant, or, you know, move that plant, and make a note of it, because in the spring sometimes you forget.
Right.
And then it gets too hot,
right,
and you can't move them. So it's good to organize your garden in your mind too.
Yes.
You know what you need to do.
Yes.
So, okay. And
you might talk about some snow.
We've had some snow lately, and we haven't had a whole lot, but we never usually get, you know, 3 or 4 feet like you did up north.
No, right.
But we do get a little snow.
Right. Well, 2 years ago in February, we had 2 big snowstorms, and if something like that should happen again, and you get, you know, 4 or 5 inches, it's a good idea to go out there with a broom and brush the snow off of your shrubs and grasses.
Yeah, if they start bending, and they might break from the
Right.
weight. But now we do also get ice here.
Right.
And we do get a lot of ice, and if you have ice on your plants, it's not a good idea to try to get that ice off, because it makes it so brittle it'll break your plant.
Right, it's better
so you just let it melt. The ice, you just have to let it melt and hope that it doesn't break your plants, but the snow can be removed with a broom if it's look like it's bending a plant too much.
Now, what do you use to avoid slickness on your driveway and yet not hurt your plants? I know they say not to put salt in your plants.
If you use salt on your driveway, you shouldn't shovel that onto your beds because that salt will really be bad for your plants. Actually, we're very lucky. We have a very flat driveway, so we don't put anything out there. But if you have those slopey driveways, I know there's some chemicals that are safe for your plants.
Right.
But I'm not sure the name of them.
No,
You'd
I
have
don't
to go to
either,
the
but
box
they
store.
can.
But you do have to be aware if you use salt, not to take that snow and put it into your beds or on your lawn because it's not going to be good for the soil.
No.
No, that's a good point too. And you have to remember too, there's so much information out there on the website that that it just goes on and on and on. You can spend hours and hours on the websites looking for different plants and information.
And those links that are on the Bella Vista Garden Club website can be a good way to start.
Right, you can start there and then go on, to just Google a plant or Google something, and so it's a good resource. If you don't have a computer, you can always go to the library and use the computer there. They have you can have sessions there at the Bella Vista Library, and I think the Bentonville Library also has that, where you can go to the library and use their computer to Google this information or find this information. So, and the Master Gardener website is also a good source. It's bentoncountygardening.org, and it has a lot of gardening information on there. So that you can fill up quite a few winter days to do all that research.
So I haven't gone to that Master Gardening website yet.
That's very good. Now, most of the information is available to everyone.
Good, I was going to ask you that.
There's a few pages on the website that are just for Master Gardeners, and but the majority of the gardening information is available for anyone that wants to go on the website. And there's also a calendar. I think Janet Carson has a calendar on there, what to do each month. We have one on our website, what to do every month. Month by month, and we talk about it here sometimes, what to do every month, because every month's different, and every plant needs care at different times. So,
and people are planning their gardens. They can plan to come to the Bella Vista Garden Club's spring plant sale too.
Oh, absolutely. We've got that set up for May 4th. It's on a Saturday at Tanyard Creek Pavilion, and it'll be our big sale on May 4th. So you might want to mark your calendar right away and put that date down, because I know with this drought and this, these terrible weather we've lost a lot of plants.
Yes.
And we're going to have to replace them.
Yes.
So, because if you don't have a plant in a location, you're going to have weeds.
That's true.
So either you have to have a plant, or you have a lot of mulch, or you're going to have weeds.
Right.
So it's good to fill your beds with the plants so you don't have too many weeds.
Right.
And
maybe to look for drought-tolerant plants too, because you don't know when these droughts will.
I don't know when it's going to end. This is the worst. I've been here 19 years, and this is the worst drought year after year we've had, like almost 3 years now.
Yes.
That we've had some bad droughts. So, and some plants have done well and some haven't. So you just have to see. Now we do have also on our website drought-tolerant plants.
Yes.
That Kathy Wason has discovered, and another member, Kate Pilarski. She's got some pictures of some that did really well in the droughts and the heat. So there are plants that will survive that. So, and our meeting is going to be on January 23rd, our Bella Vista Garden Club meeting, and that's the fourth Wednesday of the month. It's at the United Lutheran Church at Cooper Road and Forest Hills. 11 o'clock we have a social time.
Yes.
And that's good to just talk to the other members and other gardeners and just, socialize.
Right, and a light lunch is provided.
Right, we have a light lunch. And then our program is going to be Susan Young from the Silo Museum of Ozark History. And she's going to talk about Ozark herb lore, and that's going to be interesting. And then we're going to have a question and answer session, because we have 22 master gardeners in our garden club. So we're going to have a question and answer session
Good, I
with the
have a
Master Gardeners.
Question ready already.
And
All
if you
set.
just get your questions ready before you come, you know, we can answer your questions, and that's always a popular item we have. And guests are always welcome. You can always, you know, come to the club club meetings, and you don't have to be a member. We're always open to guests and want to share our information and help them with their gardens. So. And our website, like I said, has got so much information. It's so easy to find. It's just bellavistagardenclub.com. So you just type that in, and it'll you know, bring you right up to the Garden Club website. So, and well, I want to thank you, Fran, for all the information. You know, everyone does some things differently.
Yes.
And it's always good to
Right.
see how, you know, each person does
You're
their
welcome.
own thing.
I'm going to use your calendar idea in the garage by my gardening
Right.
information. That's a good
Because that
idea.
really does help, because I can never remember, now, did I spray the roses last
Yes,
week or last
exactly.
month, or, you know, and that kind of gives you a little hint as to when you have to repeat some of
Right.
these things. And so that has helped. And I want to thank you for joining us. We're hoping that we've answered a lot of your questions that you have about gardening. And if you have any other topics that you'd like us to cover this year, we are planning our programs for the
Yes.
year, and hopefully we'll have some good subject matter that will interest you. But if there's something that you'd like for us to cover in detail or in more detail, if you will just email us at our bbgardenclub@gmail.com, we can answer you or take note of what you'd like to see or hear about and get some feedback. And until next month, we're going to be looking into a lot more subjects to talk about.
Yes, as it starts getting a little warmer.
Yes, right. And till next month, don't forget to stop and smell the roses.